Roberto, you could have...
Yeah, talk about risk.
Thanks for the dance, sugar. But Remy was right. Some things are deeper than skin.
No matter how dark it is, we must believe in each other.
We get this done by working together as a team.
Jeez, bub. Keep buzzing in my ear.
What's going on, guys? Bart here with Tully Television. I want to thank all of you for stopping by, liking, commenting, sharing, all that beautiful YouTube stuff. I hope that today is the day we earn that subscription. But I want to get right into it today. We get into Xmen 97. Oh my lord. Oh my lord, man. Episode 5. Remember it. Remember it. That's the name of the episode, and that's what I want you to remember about this episode, okay? Remember it, because this has been a great season of Xmen 97. Of course, there's always going to be nitpicks by people and stuff like that here and there. I thought maybe the Inferno storyline was rushed a little bit. But in a general sense, in an overall production value, it is amazing. The animation has been, leaves you with that nostalgia feeling, but still with a sense of modernness to it, crispness to it. Even in this particular episode, there was a scene that happened in Genosha where Dazzler, and I'm going to kind of get into all this, and little cameos that I noticed, and probably ones I didn't notice, but there was a particular instance in which Dazzler was singing and performing, and, or around that scene, and they show a cup of like whiskey with ice in it, or something, or whatever was in it. And they actually show you like the condensation of the outside of the glass melting, dripping. They show you the shifting of the ice in the drink, of when it melts in the drink. So those little details that are added to this animation, even Cyclops, when he has his visor on, you can see his eyes, where before you couldn't really do that, get to see his eyes and stuff. So yeah, the animation to this has been really excellent. That to me has not been the problem with this series. Again, one of the only things I could say is that and it just was really that one episode that I felt was rushed, because it was such an extensive crossover. And there were so many things that were done in the books that wasn't done here. But I guess having Madeline Pryor actually wants to sacrifice a child to take the world over might be a little bit too heavy for this show, especially if you're trying to bring in new fans, child fans of the X-Men. You don't want to kind of like maybe root for that person necessarily, and so I get why they changed up some of it. But I digress. Basically, Magneto, Rogue, and Gambit go to Genosha to because the UN has accepted that nation as a legitimate nation, and basically the council that's running Genosha, now, so to speak, seems to include Callisto from the Morlocks, Moira McTaggart, and that's an interesting pick because I'll explain why in a minute. Banshee, Emma Frost, Sebastian Shaw, Madeline Pryor is on the council here. She said that they wanted an Xmen, and I figured you could spare her, Gene. And Val Cooper is involved with this process, so to speak. Also, what's happening back at the mansion is that Trish Tilby, a news reporter who in the comic books had dated Beast for a while, are interviewing the X-Men, and she's trying to show that the X-Men have a human side to them. At some point, Scott and Jean have a moment where they kiss, and she realizes that Madeline Pryor has been in his mind doing the psychic report talking that was only exclusively done for him and Jean, and it pisses her off. She takes off, and he's honest with her, saying that he's not sure who he loves, what's real, what's not real, but what is real is that she was the mother of my son, and I can't ignore that. You know what I mean? We sacrificed our son to go to the futures to save his life, and I'll never know what he is, who he is, or anything to that degree. You know, I see his face everywhere. And so, you know, Jean also had a moment with Wolverine where she kissed him, and Wolverine rejected her because he said everyone knows that you're Scott Summers' girl, and you don't want to do this, especially now in a state of confusion. So you should go talk to Scott. And you could tell that was really rough for Wolverine to do, to be so selfless, especially to Scott. You know what I mean? Where they always are button heads, especially over Jean over the years. So for Logan to realize that he doesn't want to win this way, so to speak, Jean's heart. And then that's when she discovers about Madeline Pryor in her mind. But at that same time, she gets, we can see like a psychic attack happen to her, but we don't know who it did it. And then we also see Madeline at Genosha during a council meeting get attacked very similarly. She said she was letting her mind wander, and Emma Frost was like, yeah, your mind was wandering, wasn't it? Because she too is a telepath, so she knew very well, like she's getting to see a soap opera no one else is getting to see, really, right? So it's like the days of our lives with Scott, Jean, and Madeline, you know, the live triangle, the triangle of love, baby. But yeah, so Emma, I feel with that statement definitely knows what's going on behind the scenes, behind the curtain, so to speak, of Madeline's mind. She must have been told to keep an eye on her, you know what I mean? Or her and Shaw just deciding to do that. But yeah, I feel like Emma's definitely knowing at least part of that story. Basically, what the council wants Magneto to do is to rule the island, okay? and his one request is that he wants Rogue to be his queen. Rogue finally comes clean to Gambit and says to him how she was born to Magneto to learn how to control her powers, and during their time together, she realized that, or they both realized that his electromagnetic powers allow him to touch her without being drained of anything. And that led to them having a special connection and falling in love. But she realized that Magneto had suffered so much trauma that there's going to be no room for her legitimately in his life like that, and she left him. So her and Gambit also talk like, it's hard for me to see you live a life, Gambit, where I can't be involved and do the things I want to do with you. And yes, we know that quality time matters, right, in a relationship. But, we also want to feel loved and intimate with our partners. We want to, give them smooches and hugs and, have mommy and daddy time, right? No pants dance, so to speak. And it's a natural feeling to want to do that stuff with your loved one, right? Your partner, anyway. Your husband, your wife, however you want to slice and dice it up. That's what you want to do with them, right? And she was able to get that with Magneto, and no matter how much she loves Gambit, she's not going to be able to have that with him. And that concerns her a lot. And so Gambit just was like, then we will remain friends, Sherry. No? And so Rogue goes to Magneto during this party in which he was going to assume that she was going to accept his offer, but she doesn't. And this part had like a real, even though it was happening on Genosha, it had a real Hellfire Gala, Krakoa feel to it. There's a ton of cameos in this episode. Leech, Dazzler, Nightcrawler, Pixie, Exodus, Archangel, Marrow, and Cable. Now, I know there was probably way more cameos in here at the Morlocks, but I either missed them or just don't know their names or like bypassed me. But yeah, a ton of cameos, and we see Cable there and warning everyone to get out. And he comes across Madeline Pryor, and she sees his eyes, and she's like, "You made it. You're okay." And then he's like, "Oh, like almost an old sugar honey iced tea. You're my mother, Ma. You need to get out of here." And then he has the body slide out of there. And then that's like when the Sentinels, this master mold, at least I'm going to call it a master mold, because there's a bunch of Sentinels that were jumping out of it, and master molds create Sentinels. So this master mold came, releasing hundreds of like Sentinels, dozens or whatever, and they messed Genosha up, bro. They were vaporizing people, destroying buildings. It was chaos. It was a massacre, bro. The Sentinels came in and they massacred the island of Genosha. And at one point, Gambit and Rogue have to try to find the Morlocks and save them. Magneto's helping. Nightcrawler, this, that, the other. Everyone's scattering, trying to help the wounded, trying to get everyone out of there. And Gambit and Rogue wind up getting separated after saving the Morlocks. And Magneto on the battlefield away from Magneto, where he and the Morlocks are over on one side. And basically, Magneto tries to use his powers to vaporize the Master Mold, unfortunately sacrificing himself and possibly the Morlocks. We don't really get to see any bodies or anything. And we know in comic books, if you don't see a body, they're not dead, right? But they could have very well been vaporized as well, beyond all their atoms just being destroyed. But we don't know that. Rogue goes nuts because at the end she decided to deny Magneto as being his queen for her own reasons, but that doesn't mean she wanted to see him injured or killed, and she goes buck wild. Gambit saves her from herself by knocking his motorcycle into her to avoid a blast from the Master Mold. The Master Mold gets Remy right in the side with like a robotic tentacle and lifts him up, and Gambit releases his kinetic energy all through the Master Mold, and it blows up, destroying it, and basically saving the day. But at the end, we have it was heartbreaking because at the end, Rogue is having his body in her hands, and she's touching him, and she's and the last line was, "Remy, I can't feel you," and that was just, it hit the heart, bro. It hit the heart. This was a very emotional episode. This was a big time punch for the mutants, for the X-Men. The X-Men back home see the news report about what happened, and they're very physically distraught. So we don't know what's going to happen in the aftermath of this. All we know is that it was total annihilation on the island of Genosha, much like what Cassandra Nova had tried to do to them, but it was done by Sentinels, and we'll see who's behind the attack, I'm sure, in the upcoming weeks. You let me know what you thought about this episode. I think it's the best episode to date, and that's where I'm at with this. But until next time, peace, Snookums.